Please. Thank you.
Perfect.
Um,
Our first
quick-
speaker today is Lois Margolin. She is a distinguished Toastmaster. She's currently working on her second distinguished Toastmaster. She is currently president of Club Outspoken. She's the vice president of membership of Club Awesome. She is also the vice president of membership of course, our club, Online Presenters. This is speech number 4 from the Storytelling Manual. She wants you to feel the emotions that are associated with her daughter's recent wedding and the love that bubbles up during this happy occasion. She's very excited to hear about all the speeches that you all are going to give tonight, as well as all the speeches that are to come in the future. At this time, please help us to welcome our fellow Toastmaster, who is a distinguished Toastmaster, as well as my mentor, Mrs. Lois Margolin.
Thank you, Adrienne. That was a beautiful introduction. Oh my goodness, I absolutely adored it. Thank you. It was October 2016. Melissa and Travis were coming down to talk about the wedding. I was super excited because I had a list.
Hold up.
We sat down, had a, yes.
I'm sorry, could you start over? You were accidentally muted when I muted everyone.
Oh, okay. Rewind.
Thank you.
Mr. Timer, I hope you'll be catching me at the beginning again. Are you ready, Morali? Okay. It was October 2016, and I was anxiously awaiting Melissa and Travis to come in from Asheville, North Carolina. We were going to discuss wedding plans. How exciting! I had a list of hotels and country clubs, a long list. One night we sat down, we had some wine with my husband and myself. I started talking about all the different locations, and they said, Mom, you need to stop. We've already thought about the wedding. We're not going to have a traditional wedding. You're not? No, we're going to have a barn wedding. A barn wedding. So what exactly is a barn wedding? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. Mom, we're getting married in a barn, and there are a few other things that probably won't be tradition. Okay, now I'm a traditionalist. This is already difficult to handle. What about the flowers? Are we going to have roses? Are we going to have daisies, hydrangeas? What would you like for your flowers? Well, my friend owns a farm down the road, and we're just going to have her pick wildflowers and bring them the day of the wedding. Okay. And what about the cake? The cake is such an important piece of a wedding because it's the centerpiece. It's where everybody puts their presents and they can look at the cake, and everybody takes lots of pictures of the cake. Mom, we're going to have pies. Pies? Pies? Who has pies at a wedding? Well, they were adamant. We don't like cake, so it's pies. I have to tell you, it took me an hour to wrap my brain around the ideas of having pies. I actually had to go on Pinterest to see, what do you do with pies at a wedding? Eventually, I was able to find this, and I accepted it. I was like, okay, but if I'm going to put my foot down somewhere, I am going to put my foot down that I want a chuppah. You see, my husband and I are Jewish. My daughter's Jewish. Travis is not. But I felt at some place during this entire wedding, there should be something traditional. Chuppah it is. The kids looked at me like I was insane, but if that's the only thing I was absolutely demanding, they were going to go with it. I have to tell you, there is something to be said about going with the flow. And even though in the beginning I was very leery about it, I was just very excited when they told me that I did not have to use a porta potty, that they would have actual bathrooms there. And it's the little things in life that make you happy. But overall, the wedding was beautiful, and I want to share some memories of the wedding. This is the top of the mountain as to where they're getting married, And down here at the very bottom, you can see the barn. It was beautiful. But let's take a different view. This is going up the mountain where the wedding's going to be held here. That is the yurt where they're going to be staying overnight after the wedding. As you can see, it is a very steep hill. And as you walk up this hill, you pass donkeys, goats, chickens, all kinds of different amazing animals. But when you get to the top and you put people in, you think it's actually Photoshop. But it's not. It is truly that beautiful of a sight. And I don't think I wanted anything different for this amazing couple from Asheville, North Carolina, than to be in a background just like this. It's set around them beautifully. There's my huppah. For those of you that don't know, the huppah symbolizes the home that they will build together. Now, this is not the traditional huppah because it doesn't have the 4 poles and the cloth, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to give a little. I was very happy to see the next thing was they decided to do one more Jewish tradition, and that is break the glass. I wish they had told me about that earlier because I would have told them to get a very thin glass or a light bulb instead of the thickest glass they could find when they went looking for glasses. It took him about 3 or 4 shots before he could break the glass. And the glass represents the fragility of a human relationship. And the saying is that as the glass shatters, so will your marriage never break. And then everyone screams, Mazel Tov. Half the ceremony, people at the ceremony didn't know about the Mazel Tov part, but I did, and I screamed it. And it was exciting. It was fun. The pies were beautiful. There were 15 different kinds of pies, and each one was on this beautiful wooden block. You couldn't have asked for anything more beautiful. And the natural flowers, they were gorgeous, all those wildflowers out there. And this is the barn. Now take a look at this, at the beautiful lighting and how it's all set up. And when you look at it straight on, it's magnificent. But nothing compares to a barn that is filled with love, friends, laughter, cheers. This was the setting that I will always remember. There's one part of this wedding that makes it just that much more simple. You see, back in October, my daughter not only asked me about the flowers and the pies and the huppah and everything else we were going through, but she asked me if she could wear my wedding dress. Now, that's an amazing thing for your daughter to come back and ask you to wear your wedding dress. I've been married for 35 years. The thing that made this so special was that my mother knit my wedding dress 37 years ago. This is the first look, and as you can see, there is all this intricate lacing that my mother knit into the dress with a cinched waist. It was absolutely beautiful. My mother, who is 99 years old, was unable to travel to North Carolina because of the height of the mountains, but she was able to see these pictures and the beauty of her dress after 37 years having been preserved so perfectly that her granddaughter could wear it. This is one of my favorite pictures. Not only does it show the dress, but it shows the wildflowers surrounded by the burlap, very simply held. As you can see, it just exemplifies the beauty all around of such a special day. The perfect setting for a couple from Asheville, North Carolina, getting married in a barn. It's unbelievable what you can see when you just look at the two of these. I look down the road for 20, 25 years when they have a daughter who is getting married, and hopefully will ask her mom to wear the same dress, to wear the dress that her mother wore, that her grandmother wore, and that her great-grandmother made with love for 2 years. A dress that took 2 years to make and so beautiful so many years later. You see, this wasn't just a story about a wedding. It's a story about an heirloom and about love. And I hope that having seen all these pictures, you could feel the love and the pride that comes from something like this where you get to share a part of your life with your daughter. Madam Toastmaster.
Wow. That was amazing. Who would have ever thought that you could take a barn and make it so beautiful?
I know.
I thought that was very creative, and it was just absolutely amazing to see. Weddings. Everyone loves being in love and being at weddings because it reminds you that life is not all about you. It's about someone else. Our second speaker today is Rolando Goldman. Rolando is going to be doing a press conference, and it's going to actually have 2 minutes of Q&A at the end of it. The total time of his speech is going to be 7 minutes. At this time, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Rolando, and then I'll have our timer to do the report. Rolando has been a Toastmaster with our club. He's a member of a couple of other clubs, another online club, as well as a brick and mortar club out of West Palm Beach. He is a software engineer. He's been a Toastmaster for at a minimum of 3 years. He has also received the Competent Communicator Award from Toastmasters International. Tonight, Toastmaster Rolando Goldman will lead a press conference regarding the WannaCry ransomware as a Microsoft representative. I'm so excited to learn more about this topic. At this time, may we please have the timers report? The time for the speech? You're on mute.
This time for the speech is 3 to 5 minutes for the speech, and then there is a 2 minutes for the Q&A. So I'll be showing 3 at green, 3 and 30 minutes for 30 seconds for yellow. 4 for yellow and 5 for red. And then for the 2 minutes Q&A, I will be showing. So for 2 minutes Q&A, where do you want the green to be?
Green at 1,
okay,
yellow
green,
at 1.5.
okay. And then red at 2.
Yes.
Thank you, Toastmaster.
Okay, perfect. At this time, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished Toastmasters, please help me welcome our Toastmaster, Rolando Goldman.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for being here tonight at Microsoft Corporation. For those of you that are watching at home, thank you for taking the time to do so. My name is Rolando Goldman, Chief Technical Officer here at Microsoft Corporation. As you know, a few weeks ago, a cyber attack called WannaCry was launched against thousands of computers running Microsoft Windows operating system. Tonight, we're going to discuss the WannaCry ransomware, and I'll take a few questions at the end. We're doing this press conference in order to inform the public of what we knew about the ransomware and what defensive steps we're taking against the ransomware. In the month of May, several people in Asia reported that they could not access the computer data. They all reported that a ransom demand was being displayed on their screen. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that the computers were infected with ransomware. What happened when the computer gets infected, the ransomware encrypts the computer data, display a message that demands $200 in Bitcoin in order to release the data. This ransomware takes advantage of a vulnerability of Windows operating system SMB, or Service Message Block Protocol. This SMB protocol is a service that allows for file sharing over the network. So one computer can infect another computer over the network. What defensive steps did we here at Microsoft take? We discovered the SMB vulnerability in our operating system, and we released a patch for all the supported Windows operating system in March. That's a couple months before the reported cases. The reported cases were reported in May, but we released a patch in March. So between March and May, any computers that applied the patch was protected and safe from the ransomware. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching at home, cybersecurity is real and crucial for all of us. Microsoft Corporation is committed to keep its products safe and secured. Please help us by using automatic updates, applying updates and patches as soon as they're released. This way, we can be steps ahead of those who wish to cause us harm in the cyber world. Now, I'm going to take a few questions from the press. If you have a question, please say your name, the press organization that you represent, and your question. Thank you.
Hi, this is Adrienne Williams. I represent CNN. Am I still able to operate my computer in Windows Safe mode when this virus is attacking the system?
Thank you for a good question. Yes, you can operate your computer on safe mode. But the key here, the data still lack. So you have to apply the patch before you get infected. Thank you. Next question.
Graham Cairns here from IT Tech. I understand that Microsoft did not make this patch available for legacy versions of Windows. You only made it available for the more recent versions. Given that there is a huge installed user base of older versions, isn't Microsoft at least partly culpable for allowing this sort of hack to go ahead?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we realize that, and that's why we released a patch for Windows XP, even though XP wasn't supported. We realized that many computers were still running XP. So we released a special patch for Windows XP and Windows Server 2003, which we stopped supported years ago. Thank you for your question.
May I ask one? This is Dave Carr from Information Week. Is there a mistrust of Microsoft on the behalf of your corporate customers that they don't think they can roll out new software from you as soon as it becomes available? I think there's always sort of a wait and see attitude. They want somebody else to install it first.
That's a good question, David. I'm not sure if it's a mistrust or if people are too busy and not applying the patches. You can trust us. If we apply patches, it's secured and safe. You should apply the patches as soon as possible. Therefore, your computer is safe from hackers. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Our time is up. Thank you so much, Rolando, for this educational presentation.
Thank you, everybody. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Man, I've heard about this spyware taking over hospitals and having to be paid in Bitcoin, but I didn't really understand what it was, so you clarified that for me. That was great to learn. Our third speaker tonight is Monica Tucker. She will be speaking to us from the Competent Communication Manual, The Icebreaker. The title of her speech, 3 words. Monica has been in Toastmasters since April 2016. Her goal is to compute her Distinguished Toastmaster by the end of 2018. In addition to her passion for Toastmasters, she is a materials and process engineer, as well as a professional organizer. Many skills are needed in life. Several years ago, she was asked a question that made her reflect and evaluate how to answer the question. This is Monica's icebreaker speech. Her title is 3 words. The time is 4 to 6 minutes. Please join me in welcoming Monica as she does her icebreaker speech once the timer has completed showing the time. Mr. Timer?
It's yellow and 7 minutes, 6 minutes red.
Okay, could you repeat? You were on mute.
Oh. Okay. Again, it is 4 minutes green, 5 minutes yellow, and 6 minutes red.
Thank you so much. And fellow Toastmasters, please help us welcome Monica Tucker.
Fellow Toastmasters, yes. A couple of years ago, I was asked a question, and I really had to think hard when I was asked this question. I was asked to use 3 words to describe myself. Now, I can do it in plenty of sentences, but when I had to use just 3 words, the amount of words that went through my head was astounding. I just could not narrow it down to 3 words. So I wrote it down in a book and I started marking out. After about 30 minutes, I come up with 3 words that I felt was reflective of my personality. I used creative, successful, and determined. The reason I chose these 3 words was for various reasons. I'm creative in many different ways. I can paint. I do stained glass. I also do scrapbooking. And I do other kinds of crafts. I do sewing. I do design for clothes. So there's many aspects that I feel I have a creative side to me, which is at odds with my chosen profession, which is an engineer. As an engineer, sometimes you have to be creative, but in a different way. You have boundaries and rules and other things you have to look at. But I found ways to actually overcome that, to be successful. Several years ago, I had an issue with operators on a production line, and they continued to have problems with understanding how to read gauges. So I created a patent, and I created a design for a go, no-go gauge, and I now have a patent that will always be in my name. It's a design that now I can sell. The company that I worked for has no longer have rights to it, so it's actually mine. So I learned a lot about our patent process, and I feel that has made me successful there. And from there, I've jumped into professional organizing. As a professional organizer, I can kind of mesh my creative with my engineering skills and help other people overcome the stress in their life. That's my main goal, is to get people to be stress-free. My last word was determined. The reason I say I'm determined, 17 years ago, my husband races dirt track cars, super late models. We were at a racetrack, and I was hit by a race car that got out of control. I was very thankful to be alive. And after 2 years of struggling with health issues because of it, I was just thankful that I could be very determined to live and to fight and to get my health back. Right after that, I did my first triathlon, which is no small feat if you've ever done any kind of sports at all. I trained for about 6 months, and then I did it was a sprint triathlon. Don't let me fool you into thinking it's an Ironman or anything. I did want to do an Ironman before I get too much older, so I've gone back into training now. So hopefully that won't take away from my Toastmasters, because I do feel that there is a need for Toastmasters. I see it every day on the engineering side. Engineers have a lot of knowledge, but their communication skills, they would get so much more across if they could just communicate better. So I'm working on starting up a club where I work right now to help with that. I just feel like this is a hidden hidden club that not a lot of people talk about. So that's kind of another goal I have, is just to, I hope I don't word vomit all over everybody, but tell them about Toastmasters and what it could do for them. Madam Toastmaster.
Wow, that was great to learn. I am an avid lover of Shark Tank, so I know a little bit about patents. And the fact that you have the rights to your patent is excellent. That is a great thing. Our next part of the meeting is our favorite one. It is time for our table topics. And I will have our table topics master, Mr. Scott Johnston, tell us what he does as soon as we have the timers report and we know if everyone qualifies. And then you will send your vote by chat to Mahi.
All 3 speakers are qualified under time.
Perfect. If you could please send your vote now to Mahi through private message, make sure you send it to her directly and not to everyone. Thank you so much. At this time, please help me welcome our table topics master, Mr. Scott Johnston.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Well, this part of the meeting revolves around impromptu speaking on our feet. So it's a skill that we can well use in all sorts of community-based life skills. But before I go on, Madam Toastmaster, do we have anybody that needs to do a 2-minute speech to put forward their membership towards online presenters?
There is one.
There is?
Yes. Lois, is she on today?
Who are you looking for, Adrian?
You sent me an email today for someone?
Yes, I do not think they are on. There were a couple of guests that had said, Brushan, I think he had mentioned that he would be willing to give a table topics, but it's not to actually join the club. He's only been here once. Is that right, Brushan? You've only been here once?
Yeah, this is my first meeting.
So it's just a regular table topics.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Clarification.
Just checking. Thank you very much. Sean, would you like to do a table topic?
Sure.
My theme today is all based on leadership, and they're from favourite phrases, and I would like your input on these phrases. My first one is, never push a loyal person to the point where they no longer give a damn. And that was from an unknown person. Could I have your views on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and some guests, I believe. Never push a loyal person to the brink where they don't give a damn. Is that correct?
That's fairly well correct, yep.
Well, I can attest to being pushed to a corner where I no longer give a damn. Fellow Toastmasters, I'm pretty sure that most of you have experienced a situation like that in your lifetime. Some of you have been in leadership positions. Some of you might have been in individual contributor positions, or maybe like me, you were in the middle management. Anybody relate to that? Been there, done that. When you are dealing with people, you are bound to get in situations where you just don't know what's the right thing to do, and you get pressure from above you, below you, because employees that you're responsible for want something's done, and management wants something's done, and of course, you have customers who demand innovation and results and outcomes. So I was faced with situations like that, and I wanted to be loyal to the company that I work for. But at some point, I realized that, the only person that really matters is my family. And pretty soon I realized that this internal stress that I was dealing with was not worth having for my family, for my stress, for my health. So at some point, I did realize that I must make a choice. And I did make a choice. I said to myself, Bhushan, You've got to find a way out, and I don't care. I don't give a damn. I was loyal to the company, but it appeared to me that the company wasn't loyal to me. So I made a choice and left and found greener pastures. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Bushan. You're a born leader. So
Thank
well
you.
done to you.
Thank you.
My next question is, don't find fault, find a remedy. John Quick.
Theo, Topics Master, did you say remedy?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, don't find fault,
Don't find a remedy.
find a remedy. Remedy makes me think of medicine for some reason, like cough medicine. Thick, orange, gooey, interesting flavored cough medicine, like NyQuil or DayQuil. Who could find fault with that? Sometimes you could just drink it for fun, especially if you're not feeling well. So if you get diagnosed with a little bit of a cold, or you feel one coming on, reach for the strange orange stuff, or the red stuff, or the purple stuff, or the blue stuff. That's not finding fault. That's finding your remedy. Finding leadership in a little bottle of medicine that hopefully can stave off a virus or a bacterial infection this winter time. And I wanted to use the word of the day, gratitude. Is that what it was? Okay. Yes. Bottle of gratitude from the people at NyQuil. Next time I'm going to make sure that they pay me to give a table topics like this. Topics Master.
Thank you very much, John. That was a curly question to ask, but you did well. And I must admit, I'm sure Henry Ford would have been very proud of that answer because he is the one that coined that phrase. Okay, and next question is, leadership is practiced not so much in words as in attitude and in actions. Jim Dent, your comments, please.
Thank you. Leadership is more actions than it is what you say. And those actions include active listening. It kind of relates to several aspects. Is you've got to listen to anybody that comes to you with a problem or a complaint. And it's the action is how you listen. You want to make sure you really understand the other person's viewpoint and then how you handle it. You can brush something under the rug, or you can try to coach somebody through how to solve the problem rather than tell them how to solve the problem. A good leader will help the person discover how to handle a situation. It's a form of mentoring or coaching. And the tone of voice is part of your action also. Your facial expressions, your body language, that's all part of the leader's action and how you handle any situation. So from my viewpoint, it's more about your actions you take rather than the actual words that you speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. I think we might be just about out of time, so under those circumstances, I'll hand it back to the Toastmaster. Thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you so much. What a great variety of questions. At this time, can we please have the timers report for the table topics?
Yep, all three were within the normal time and they are qualified for voting. Bhushan is 2 minutes and 14 seconds, and John is 1 minute and 23 seconds, and Jim is 1 minute and 34 seconds.
Perfect. At this time, could you please send your vote through the chat to Mahi on your vote for your best table topics speaker. I will be moving on to the evaluators while you guys are casting your vote. Our first evaluator is Norman Dow. He will be evaluating the first speaker, Lois Margolin. At this time, Norman, please help me welcome Norman Dow.
Greetings to all Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster of the evening, and especially Lois. First of all, I have to say, what a wonderful story. I really, really enjoyed it. It was hard to focus on being an evaluator and not just a spectator listening to and enjoying the story. One of your objectives was to evoke emotion and to tell a touching story. I was really empathetic through the process. I've been through the wedding of a daughter, had a son again, and all the emotions of being the parent and caring so much about this very, very important day, but really having no real control over any of it. It came out. Excuse me. The conflict, excuse me, the conflict in the story was between your idea of a very traditional wedding and your children's idea that wasn't very traditional at all. You wondered how it would resolve, and sometimes it doesn't end well. Excuse me. I like the way that you structured the trip through the wedding by showing the setting and then the path and going up to the place where the wedding was held and passing the goats and the ponies and to a wonderful setting that was idyllic. I think you described it very, really well, saying it could have been photoshopped. It was so perfect. And as it resolved very, very well. If one of the questions was, well, how well did you incorporate dialogue and character development? Well, you basically narrated this. You talked about the reaction your children had to some of the things, like, for instance, when you put your foot down, or your idea of a traditional wedding, but there wasn't any real dialogue. That may have helped. It's difficult sometimes to incorporate that in this kind of story. The story was wonderful without it, but one of the goals was dialogue. The character development wasn't explicit, but implicit, as you saw the choices that your children made and their friends and the setting. You got to know something about them by their choices, as opposed to any real development as they interacted with you in the story. But overall, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a wonderful story, and I really look forward to hearing much more from you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Our second evaluator is Mr. David Carr. He will be evaluating the speech for Rolando Goldman. Mr. David Carr, please help me welcome him. You're muted, David.
I'm muted, and I was also confused, actually. I wasn't keeping, I didn't count right. I was thinking I was going to be evaluating Monica, but that's okay. We'll give, I can do it for Rolando. So Rolando, I apologize for being a little bit disorganized on that. This is an interesting and challenging speech, because you in order to do it right, you have to role play a little bit. You have to put yourself in the position of that executive who gets to defend the not easily defended position of having a cybercrime attack that's specifically going against your software, against your product. where you're causing misery for millions of people. What a wonderful thing to be able to do at scale. So I thought you did a good job of setting up this scenario. I think sometimes it's hard to make these things entirely realistic, to put yourselves in the shoes of that executive, because you're trying to explain to the audience what the context is. Whereas in the real world example, everybody, the reporters would be coming into the press conference sort of knowing what all the dirty details are, and the executive's job is to try and mitigate those things and explain why it's not really so bad. Let's see. And Graham came out with a challenge to you on, I understand you didn't patch the old versions of Windows, and you had the detail there that in fact, I think maybe they got embarrassed into it, but they went back and they did issue a patch for that older XP version, because there's still a lot of it out there that needs to be brought up to date. Overall, I think you did a good job of setting up the scenario and handling the challenges, which was the point of the exercise. So great job, Rolando. Back to you, I'm Toastmaster.
Awesome, thank you. Our third evaluator tonight is Mr. Robert Owens. He will be evaluating our third speaker, Monica Tucker, on her icebreaker. Please help me welcome Mr. Robert Owens. We can't hear you, Robert, if you're talking. You might be on mute.
Is Robert on the screen? I don't see him.
I was going to say, is Bob still here? I don't think I can see him anymore.
Yeah, I don't see him either.
Could have been him.
Okay.
But you know what's so wonderful is David had an evaluation
Yes, David
ready.
is ready. Take it away, David.
Okay, wonderful or terrible, but I'll do my best to. Monica, I really enjoyed your icebreaker, and it did what I think a good icebreaker should do. Is it sort of bites off a chunk. You don't try and tell your whole life story. You try and tell one particular angle on it. And this was such a wonderful way of crystallizing it, of talking about this challenge. I don't remember exactly what the context is that you were asked to describe yourself in 3 words, but the process that you went through and all the words that occurred to you that you had to edit out to get down to 3. And you came up with creative, successful, and determined. And you illustrated each of those in turn, including showing off a craft project, but also talking about how engineers can be creative too, because we don't want them to be too creative when it comes to making the bridges stand up and the buildings all together and the steam engines not explode. But the creativity of being able to look at a problem and coming up with a different solution for the problem. And I'm not quite sure, it was something about the design or the signage that was a patentable invention. So that's fantastic. Successful, you outlined some details on that, but I think the one that really caught my attention was determined. The story of being seriously injured and having to make a comeback from that. A comeback to the point where you're able to do a triathlon, and I'm not up to doing any kind of triathlon. So even if you did the Ironman, I don't care. I'm impressed. And of course you brought it home to something that we all care a fair amount about, which is communication and making people understand the value of the Toastmasters program. And I have the same feeling that there are a lot of people out there who could use Toastmasters, but who really aren't aware of it. So I'm glad to have you on the side of the forces of light, trying to bring that out to people. And actually, in terms of engineers needing to have communication skills, is Dr. Byrne still on the line? You should have a talk with Dr. Byrne, who meets at the Department of Transportation, a building full of engineers but we have a heck of a time getting any of them into the room for the Toastmasters meeting, even though it's right down the hall for them. So they need it, but they don't necessarily know they need it. I think one of the challenges with Toastmasters is you have to wait until they realize something happens in their life that they realize they need it and they reach out for it. And you have to be there with the invitation when that moment comes. So I'm glad you're on the side of that, and great icebreaker. I'm glad to have you in our club. I'm Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. And at this time, we'll move directly on to our general evaluator, Kirshen Ramchurn. Please help me welcome him.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Before I start, do I also introduce reports from the Grammarian Watcher and Chat Monitor? Would you like me to do it?
You certainly can, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank goodness I'm not alone in the general evaluation, and I'm supported by a team of wonderful members. And without further ado, let's introduce the first one who was actually watching everyone's body language. So, Toastmaster Viviana, would you like to give a quick report of how the session went for you as watcher of this session? Viviana.
Yes, thank you, Christian. I see that everyone have a wonderful wonderful presence on the webcam. So, but I see, for example, Diane and Norman, it looks like there is too much light, so your reflection looks like there is too bright. And for the speakers, I see wonderful layout slide from Louise. It looks like a wedding card presented to us. And she has also good body language, hand gesture. And for Rolando, I like that you presented well yourself, wearing the coat like you are in the real press conference. And for Monica, you have a good body language. Your background is a plain wall or plain screen without any distraction. Back to you, Christian.
Thank you, Viviana. Thank you for the very interesting feedback, and I hope our speakers can get the value from them. We now move on to another person who's been, this time, listening to the usage of the English language. Our grammarian, Toastmaster Lou. Toastmaster Lou.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. In the essence of time, I will be short with this and just point out a few things. First of all, Lois had some wonderful usages of language, such as wildflowers exemplify the beauty of such a simple day. And one item I think was a grammatical snafu. You said won't be tradition when probably you should have said won't be traditional. You certainly had several other examples of great usages of the language, though. Rolando, I really want to congratulate you because I am assuming English is your second language, and you did an excellent, excellent job of both articulating and being very professional, both in your look and your dialogue. You spoke slowly. You had no misuse of language at all, so I really want to congratulate you. In your speech, it was kind of tough to have anything colorful in terms of grammar, but I really, really want to congratulate you on really executing this with great use of the English language. Monica, in terms of your determination, live, fight, get health back. And did you say something like word vomit? I don't know if you said that. I thought I heard that, so I was like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. Bushin, pressure from above you and below you. John, thick, gooey, orangey, the red stuff, blue stuff, purple stuff, green stuff, all the different colors you mentioned. Jim had a great quote in terms of a good leader will help someone solve the problem on their own, or something very close to that about helping, being an active person, helping people solve problems. Norman, empathetic, idyllic, and Dave, three great items. You have bites off a chunk, crystallizing, and forces of light. Mr. General Evaluator.
Wow. I don't think anyone else was listening better than our grammarian. Thank you, Lou. Thank you for such an insight and showing how to actually listen with intention and actively. Thank you so much. And I hope members who got their feedback, you make proper use of it. We also had someone who was listening to your filler words, including mine. Let us now welcome Toastmaster Dagmara for her report on this session. Dagmara.
Hello, Toastmasters. You used around 31 times words like so, but there are people that didn't use it even once, and it was Adrienne, Lou, Scott, and Rolando. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dagmara. Short and sweet. Very well done. And we now move on to someone who has been monitoring our chat. That's a job that requires lots of patience. So please put your hands together for the...
Thank you, General Evaluator. There was not much that I can comment on in the chat tonight. There wasn't anything much that required attention. That which was, I passed on. One observation would make is very where they're not focusing on the speaker, which is something that we should be doing. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Chat Monitor. Thank you very well and very much. I'll just now give my own evaluation of the whole session time. Officer, he made sure that everyone knew how to behave and what not to do. Thank you for that, because we always need that reminder at the start of each session, despite being an advanced club. We had a good flow of the whole session, with each prepared speaker being well introduced by a Toastmaster of the session. She also requested the timing to be showed, and that was well done because the timer shared the information at the start and also posted the same information to each speaker in the chat monitor. The table topic segment went very well. It was with well-crafted and engaging sessions. One recommendation here, just be aware that a guest may not be ready to be the first speaker. Nevertheless, the guest had requested that he could speaking slot, so thank you so much. And I'm completely out of time, it seems. I had a 2 to 3 minute segment, but I'll post the remaining feedback in the chat. Thank you and enjoy the session, everyone.
Thank you so much for that. I want to thank everyone for attending our meeting tonight. I want you to remember that Veterans Day is coming up soon. And to remember, Oprah's favorite things named a gratitude jar this week. That is a perfect gift for you to give your favorite veteran. Now, our president will close us out. Mr. President.
All right. I think we should also count on our vote counter, right, to tell us if we had some winners for this evening.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I can do it. Fine. Mahi?
Yep. So we have the best speech, that is Louis, the Bond Wedding.
Okay.
For table topics, it's Bhushan. For the evaluator, I know David was 5 seconds over to 3 minutes and 5 seconds, but then the evaluation you did for Monica won the best evaluator for tonight.
Forward for the evening, but so Adrian, you're gonna, because you press the record button, you're gonna wind up with a big file on your computer, and I'll have to send you a note about what to do with that. But the problem is when the slide comes up saying this meeting will be recorded, from that view I can't click the button without stopping the slideshow. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let us ask for some feedback from the guests who've been visiting us with us this evening. Let's try our first time, Ramya. Should I unmute? Tell us a little bit about what you thought.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It's my first time, as I said. It was fun, and it was a learning experience. And to use the word. I want to express my thanks, so I'll express my gratitude to everyone.
Very well.
And I'm very happy to be here. It was a great time and a useful time. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we hope you come back and visit us again.
Yeah.
Bhushan?
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much for letting me be part of this. I look forward to more.
All right. Thank you for visiting. And Vinay? Vinay, are you there?
Yes. Hey, this was very good, and I learned a lot, and I was a little nervous about the table topics. So I had to see how I'll be speaking, but yeah, this was very interesting.
We generally don't, I don't know, I guess it differs between clubs, but generally we don't ambush guests. You know, we give you a little bit of time to settle in. We did have a guest who was an experienced Toastmaster who volunteered, but
okay.
we give you a little bit of runway before we call you on the spot.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to take a moment to share my screen and go over next week's agenda, try and make sure that we get it filled up. We have Norman as Toastmaster of the Day. And I've been experimenting with this little widget for randomly assigning people to roles. So you can decide whether you want to accept these or not. But Murali, could we put you down as our counter for next week?
I will be missing next week most probably. So, but if I happen to attend it, I will take any open roles at that time.
Okay. All right. Can I get somebody else to volunteer for our counter for next week? Jim Gold, do you think you'll be here?
Yeah, we should be back. And yeah, I will happily try.
I will make you an offer.
Back in Fort Lauderdale, our home and studio should go ahead.
All right. Adrian, could I make you the timer next week?
I'm not sure. I have a guest in town, so I can't commit to
Okay.
a role
All right.
right now. He'll be here tomorrow.
Do you have another volunteer for timer?
I can do timer.
That was Graham. If I can find Graham on the list. There he is. Grammarian, Jim Dent. Do you want to be our grammarian next week?
Yes, I can do it.
All right. This does sort of speed things up a little bit to give some suggestions in here. Arlene, could you be our watcher? Is Arlene here? Oh, sounds like she may have dropped off.
I'm here.
Oh.
I'm here, and I'll do it.
Okay.
Put me down.
All right. You have been drafted.
Okay, and with that, I'll leave the meeting. Bye-bye.
All right. See, and how about,
Nothing?
so I don't know about, we do have an open speaker.
Yeah.
We do have an open speaker role. Would anybody like to speak next week?
Got a Toastmasters meeting. I'm going in.
So this shows as it's filled in, but this is just a suggestion. Deborah has not volunteered for this. I could try and twist her arm, but yep. All right. Well, I'm going to, if I don't hear any volunteers, I have this little widget here where I can send her a note saying she's been recommended for that role, and she can accept if she wants to do it. How about Topics Master for next week? Mahi, would you like to try Topics Master?
Sure, I can try that.
All right. And evaluators. Rolando, would you like to be an evaluator next week?
Sure.
Okay. Charles hasn't been here in a while, so I don't know if I want to put him in for evaluator. Who else would like to be in it? Christian, could you?
I'll take that, David.
Oh, Lois would be an evaluator. Okay. And how about one more evaluator? Anybody? John Quick, would you like to be an evaluator next week?
I think he's speaking.
No, I'm on chat monitor.
Oh, okay.
I think you
can,
should put Chris in as an evaluator.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. I think we then have a pretty full roster. Then we'll see what happens. And just to show you, if any of you run clubs. Oh, that didn't work. Never mind. I think that's it. We'll see you next week then. Have a good night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.
Good night.
Good night.